Hashvis, the seventh aspect of Keser which we're to emulate, Panav tihiyena me'iros tamid, his face, his countenance should constantly be shining. V'yikabel kol adam b'sever panim yafos, and he should accept every person with a pleasant facial countenance. Sheken b'keser elyon, because we find the same thing regarding the keser. Ne'emar, it says, Ba'or pnei melech chaim. In the light of the face of the king, there is life. So I suppose what it means is that keser is like the face of the king. I'm assuming that the king is a reference to God. And God is behind the countenance of keser. And it's through keser which, like we said, the divine will and divine wisdom radiates into the world of creation. First in the spiritual realm of creation, and then eventually down into the physical realm of creation. Yeah, so that in this respect, Keser is like the face of Hashem. It's an interesting idea. And we spoke about, I think, in a previous session, how panim is related to the word panim, which means inward. And that a person's face kind of shows what's going on inside. The different aspects of a person, the apertures of a person's face are like windows into what's going on inside. The smile, what's in the eyes, the way the person holds their nose, their nostrils, as we said, yeah, and things like that. So according to this, Keser is like the face. And the spheros are like the apertures within that face, showing what's going on in the divine mind, as it were, within. It's a beautiful idea. So if you were to like turn the spheres this way, right? Looking at it on this plane. So this would be Malchus, right? And this would be Yesod, and that would be Netzach and Hod, right? And whatever, Devorah, Tiferes, and Chesed and Gvura. So kind of overlapping them this way, right? So then each one would be kind of like a light through which you actually kind of see superimposed over the face of Keser in the background. And if you were able to penetrate into those spheros, yes, each one being an aperture within Keser, because each one is actually relating back to Keser, then it would really be kind of like the apertures of the face, which show what's going on behind the face and the mind. That would be the Chokhmah, Bin, and Das. It's quite an interesting idea. So a person should have a sever panim yafos. He should have a kind and pleasant countenance, just like Keser has that appearance. Because in that place, there's no sin, there's no transgression, there's no anger, there's no judgments. It's all just a big smiley face. Yeah, God is smiling down into creation. And if we want to emulate Keser, then we should do the same thing. Yeah, we should have a pleasant countenance, the type of countenance that people enjoy looking at, and not that people are kind of want to turn away from. I don't suppose it means that you necessarily have to be smiling all the time from ear to ear. That's not the point, right? But a person can either be pleasant looking or not. I'm not talking about physically attractive or not. I'm talking about having a pleasant countenance or not. So getting back to the verse then, Ba'or pnei melech chaim. In the light of the face of the king, there is life. And that's what we should be emulating. Keser. That in the light which is emanating from our faces, yes, there should actually exude chaim, life, something that is going to be beneficial and pleasant to others. Ve'ein shum oidem v'din nichnas sham klal. There's no redness that goes into that place at all. Red, the color red, is associated with gvura, which is associated with din, which are judgments. And therefore, there's no color red. There's no hue of red in Keser. There's no red there. Of course, there is red in potential, because there is din and gvura later on. But it's not expressed there.
Keser is what again? Kindness?
Keser is really the crown. But it's described here time and time again as being the source of all loving kindness and chesed and rachamim.
Gotcha. So it's like hesed.
Yeah. And when a person's angry, you see, his face gets all red. So, but in Keser, there's no anger, there's no judgment, there's no din, so there's no red. Askach or panav lo yishune. Therefore, the light of a person's face should not turn from white to red, from tranquility to anger. V'kol mistakel behem lo yimtzo ela simcha v'hasbaras panim. And anybody that were to look into his face, into his features, should only see their joy and pleasantness and a pleasant countenance, but not see colors like the color red. What about the color purple? I mean, aside from being the name of a book, the color purple. Royalty. Yeah.
Nobility.
Mm-hmm. Sagula. In any case, vishum siba lo tadirehu mizeklal, and nothing should distract him from maintaining this type of pleasant and life-giving balance. We know that that's not the case. We lose our balance all the time. This can throw us off, and that can throw us off. We get angry, upset, irritated by all the different types of things. But to the extent that we do that, we're not actually emulating Keser. Emulating Keser would mean constantly seeing everything in life as coming from the divine, and therefore nothing to get worried and upset about. In any case, what was I thinking? Why? Because if he recognizes that everything comes from Hashem and everything is for a person's good, then there's really nothing to get upset and bent out of shape about. Only if a person is thinking small will we get upset. But if he thinks large, then he won't. And then he's elevating his thought from Gvura to Keser, because he's seeing that from a smaller, lower perspective, a person sees multiplicity and seems, therefore, to see opposing forces, those he wants and those that seem to oppose him. But in truth, all of that multiplicity, if he looks in a higher plane with a higher purpose, he sees that they're all the multiplicity actually originates in one. Just like all of the spheros originate in Keser, and just like all of the colors of the spectrum are melted into white. So too, a person sees all of these different aspects of multiplicity. Rather than getting upset, he was attuned to relating everything back to its source. He realized that everything comes from Keser, and then there everything is fine. Everything is the Ratzon Hashem, and everything is Chesed. Right? So if he misses his bus, or somebody steps on his toe, or whatever the case may be, rather than getting upset about this, he'll realize that it's all for good. And there's nothing to get upset about. On the contrary, thank you. I'm appreciative for getting this malady, because it's pointing out to me something that needs to be corrected, so forth and so on.